Welcome to the Harrison Cameras channel. I'm Darren.
And I'm Simon.
And today we're getting a first look at the new Canon R7 and R10.
So we were lucky enough to be invited by Canon to a pre-launch workshop at Cheshire Falconry where we got some hands-on time with the new cameras. We must stress though that these were pre-production samples, so the images may not be fully indicative of the final quality. So let's talk about the R7.
Okay.
So 32 megapixels, brand new sensor, Digic-X processor, 15 frames per second mechanical shutter, and 4K video with Canon Log 3. What did you like about it? And what didn't you like about it?
I mean, first off, the handling was really good. The new jog wheel with the joystick looked very odd to begin with, but in use, it's in the right place. I think when you're looking at the playing back through the images, it's muscle memory kind of leads you to go back to where it's normally placed on the 7D.
Yeah, I found that on it. Yeah.
But in use, when the camera's up at your eye, it makes sense really.
Yeah.
And the other thing was the AF. I mean, that was surprised me just how good it was. With the AF you can change the settings depending on what it is you're photographing, and with the wildlife setting on, it would just it locked on every time. And it was able to track the birds through the air. That was
that was good. A bit of a new experience for me because I'm used to using Canon cameras, shot with Canon for a long time, and that was always kind of the thing that you always got bogged down on, was the AF system and setting it all up correctly. And do I use a single point, or do I use groups, or do I use zones, and all that sort of stuff. And with these, it was really like, I'm going to stick it on auto, and I'm going to set it on bird mode. And that was it. There was literally nothing else you had to do. You didn't have to think about where your starting point was, whether you wanted the focus points to wrap round, whether you wanted to pick them manually or anything. It just works.
Yeah, and like I was using it in the woods at one point, and it locked onto the bird that was sitting on a branch, and then as the bird moved around, the autofocus point followed it and sort of almost anticipated where the bird was going to be. So when it popped out from behind some leaves, it straight away locked onto it.
Yeah.
And that was, it was amazing and easy to use. It was, you couldn't. It was very hard to miss a shot with that.
Absolutely.
And then the 15 frames a second. I mean that, once it's locked on, you can just fire away, and you're going to get that. You're going to get that shot.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I know Canon said about the electronic shutter as well. They said you'll do up to 30 frames per second with the electronic shutter, but they weren't kind of keen to push that specification as a headline spec, because I think they've maybe got some slight issues with rolling shutter. They're not quite 100% happy with the quality, I think, when they're using the electronic shutter. But 15 frames per second, I mean, that's more than we would have dreamed of years ago. I remember shooting with a EOS 3 film camera with a motor drive on the bottom, and you got 8 frames per second, and you went through a roll of film in like 5 seconds.
I mean, it is just remarkable, like when you do sort of think about, back even, you're looking at the sort of 5D2s and things like that, and you're getting, 5 or 6 frames a second, and even with the 7D2, this just is just faster. Everything about it is faster, and it's incredible considering, where they're sort of pitching the price points, and within the range of cameras, you just can't. I mean, it's remarkable that
it is. One thing that impressed me with the continuous shooting was I've used kind of cheaper to mid-range cameras before for wildlife photography, and the thing that I would always come up against was that if it was on its fastest burst mode, you would take about 10-12 shots, and then you'd be waiting for the memory card. And now, I was using the R10 all day, 15 frames per second, just rattling them off. Not once did I ever have to wait for it.
Yeah, there was no slowdown whatsoever. And to be honest, I think the card that I was using was not particularly, fast.
Yeah, I think we just had kind of standard kind of class 10, Lexar 95 meg type.
Yeah, and there was no slowdown whatsoever. Just kept firing.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, they've done an amazing job with that. So I think for certainly for wildlife photographers, I mean that's all we can go on, considering that's all we've used it so far. Hopefully, in the future, we'll get a review up and test it in different environments. But certainly for wildlife photographers, both cameras would serve you really well.
Yeah, and it's nice actually to have the option of being able to get into, really quite serious wildlife photography at these kind of price points, because previously you'd been buying a 1DX and you'd been buying a 500 f4, and then you'd been buying the great big Gitzo tripod and all the rest of it, and gimbal head, and before you know it, you've spent 15 grand.
Yeah, and I mean the weight as well. I mean, you can seriously shoot wildlife photography on the R10. Wouldn't hesitate, and that with one of the sort of 600mm, 800mm f11 STM lenses.
Yeah.
I mean, it weighs as much as probably a 7D with a 70-200 on, if not less than that.
Yeah, probably a lot less. I would say.
I mean, a 90D or it's and to have that, you can just go out, just take it with you, just chuck it over your shoulder, take it with you, and you've got that resolution, that power, that speed.
Yeah.
So whilst we're at it, we might as well mention the specs of the R10.
Yeah. So the R10 is 24 megapixels, same sensor that we've seen in some previous Canon cameras, but we've still got the same processor as the R7. In fact, same processor as the R3 Digic X, and it'll still do 15 frames per second with a mechanical shutter, and we've still got all the 4K video and stuff like that. So really, the only things that you're missing out on are the increased battery life that you get with the R7. Because the R7's got a larger battery. You're missing out on slightly better build quality with the R7, and just the slightly better handling that you've got with the R7. Of course, the R7's also got the in-body stabilisation.
Which gives you up to 7 stops of image stabilisation.
Yeah.
Potentially 8 with some of the lenses.
Some of the lenses, question mark lenses.
Yeah, question mark lenses. We don't really know what they are yet, but I mean that's exciting as well, isn't it? Like sort of that kind of technology again built into cameras at this level.
It's taken Canon a while. To get proper in-body IS. I think we've seen electronic IS on the video side of some of the cameras for a while, but it's nice that they're now kind of adapting it to everything. I think it probably makes sense because it means that technology can be taken out of the lenses can be made smaller, more lightweight.
That is again another sort of exciting part of it. Like how small will they be able to get the lenses when they take image stabilizer out of them? And
then of course using the stabilization in the lenses in conjunction with the stabilization in the body, which we've seen from the likes of Olympus, to basically eliminate the need for ever having a tripod.
Well, I mean that's and when you've got the sort of autofocus modes as well. I mean they've got a few modes that they've not included before in other cameras, like the panoramic mode and interesting the panning mode, which didn't get to try out at the event, but like that. The way that was presented, it was almost like you can just point it at something and the camera itself works out the shutter speed to be able to blur the background. I mean that
the kind of perfect balance between the rate that you move in the camera in order to get the subject to be sharp, but still have a nice amount of blur in the background. I think that'll come in really handy for obviously motorsport photography, things like that, where the path of the subject is a little bit more predictable.
So we've spoken quite a lot about the stills capabilities of both cameras, but what about video?
Yeah, well, both do 4K, and I'm not a video shooter personally. I'm not really a video guy, but I know enough about it. I think I was shooting on the R10. I think I had it set to just full HD, just seeing what it could do in terms of the focusing and so on. But actually, really impressed.
Yeah, we've got some sample. We've got a couple of samples, I think, from both cameras. So we'll put them in. But again, I mean the R7, it's got the Canon Log 3 built into it, which the R10 doesn't. But again, it's 4K video. I mean, it looked very sharp.
It looked great, and everything kind of performed the way I expected. I think when it comes to the quality, there's no question that the quality is going to be decent.
Yeah.
It's more things like the performance of the AF system and stuff, whether it can keep up with the subject. I think both cameras seem to do really, really well in that respect. Yeah. So currently, neither of us are actually Canon users, although we've both used a range of Canon cameras over the years. And in more recent years, I jumped over to Micro Four Thirds.
I currently use a Leica because
fancy stuff. But actually, these are the first Canon cameras that I've seen for a while that are genuinely exciting, and actually.
Yeah,
I quite fancy one.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, the last few releases from Canon, they're a bit more incremental steps up, and with the DSLRs, that they kind of people know what to expect. They haven't changed too much, but obviously with the mirrorless, they can do whatever they want. People, there's expectation that it's going to be different and an advancement. So, that these are generally exciting.
Yeah.
To maybe even. I mean, I personally, I think I would probably go for the R7. But I could easily use the R10. I mean,
I think I'd definitely be drawn to the R10 because I currently shoot Micro Four Thirds. It's the reason I bought it is because it's small.
Yeah.
But I picked up the R10 and I just thought, whoa, I'm home. It really is like going back to the proper Canon stuff, and you've got all those nice Canon colours that you've been used to for years and things. Canon have got a lot going for them. I know you sometimes read some of the technical reviews and stuff, and maybe the low light performance or high ISO performance is maybe not quite as good as some of the others and so on. But actually, I think the images take some beating.
Yeah, and the only criticism you could lay at the Canon, in terms of previous things, is that the R10 feels like the camera that the EOS M range was meant to be. Like straight away you hold it and you think, well, this, it feels very similar to some of the M range, but obviously it can take the RF glass, it can take the the EF glass with the adapter. So you sort of think, well,
it's been built for photographers.
Yeah.
Whereas the M range seems to be built more for kind of more casual users, that photography is not the main focus, but they want to capture a good quality image. But this is actually built for people that like using cameras.
So you'd buy one of these?
I'd be quite tempted to buy an R10, I think. Yeah. So also up until sometime in September, Canon have said both cameras will come with the RF to EF adapter.
And that's in the box? That's
included in the box. So if you're maybe a 7D Mark II user looking for an upgrade, then you can jump over to something like an R7, and you can use all your existing lenses. Plus it also opens up a world of second-hand lenses for both cameras.
Yeah, because I mean the EF lenses are still really good. I mean it's it's a good system to buy into. No excuses now. So I think we're having at Harrison Cameras, we're having a in-store day.
We are, where you can come along and you can see both of the new cameras. There'll be someone from Canon in store. That's on the 2nd of June from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So pop down, there'll be a guy from Canon there. You'll be able to use the cameras, try them out. I believe you'll be able to shoot with them, even though they're pre-production samples, but you won't be able to take any images away.
Right. Okay. Well, it's still good. A good way of getting an idea of what they're going to handle, like how they are in use. I mean, that's exciting to see.
Yeah. And actually, if you want to bring down any of your EF lenses, you can stick them on and try them, see what they perform like.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Cool. That's it then. I think
that's it. Yep.
We'll probably have some. We'll have some more thorough reviews of the camera. Probably both cameras, maybe.
Yeah, sometime after launch when we can get our hands on a proper production version, we go out and actually use it.
Test them in different environments, different lenses. But yeah, there we go. Very good.
All right.
See you later.